We always say we aren't competing against other gut health brands in the space. We're competing against Ariana Grande and Nike for people's attention, or other big, huge brands. We shouldn't, none of us should be competing against each other. We should all be working together to drive the same mission.
Alana, very warm welcome to the podcast, and a big thank you to coming to our tiny podcast, given that you're now a big TV star, obviously.
I know, very embarrassingly, my new sort of like, when you type in the gut stuff into Google, it comes up the Pooh twins or the Plop twins. That was like all the headlines. I was like, that's my life now. I used to be a DJ. But yeah. Brilliant. No, amazing to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. There's so much that we want to talk to you about on this episode, but I think given that your brand is the gut stuff, unsurprisingly, is probably going to focus on gut health. But what would be a really great way to kick off is, if you wouldn't mind, just giving us a bit of a background, because it's quite a long, in terms of just the variety of things that have got you to this point, from the twin study that you'll start with, through to websites, then a brand and a TV show, an app, events, other things. So maybe just give us a bit of a background as to how it all came together.
Yeah, very randomly. So Lisa and I, my twin sister and I, who founded the gut stuff, we used to be DJs, so couldn't be further from health and wellness. We're also from working class Scotland, so brought up on deep fried pizza and chips and 10 Lambert and Butler for lunch. So yeah, definitely did not see myself owning a gut health business. But as we were DJing, we volunteered for twin research during the day under Tim Spector at King's. So we were one of the first people to have our guts analysed. It was the American Gut Project at the time, so even before the British Gut Project. And yeah, it got us on this weird and wonderful journey. But I guess, most importantly, the sort of science behind, how important your gut was got us super passionate. And, why did no one know this? But Lisa and I, obviously having 100% the same DNA as identical twins, actually only had 30 to 40% the same gut microbiome, which was, luckily quite groundbreaking research at the time, but also fascinating for us personally. We were definitely, being DJs in our 20s, very much doing the cabbage soup diet, pre-Magaluf and Atkins, any fad diet, we were doing that. And actually finding out that, one size doesn't fit all, and that Lisa and I, even though genetically we're identical, we're so different. And actually, even just finding out what our guts were, we thought, well, like, what do you mean, my beer belly? What are you talking about? That was groundbreaking for us. And then everything that started to unfold out of that,
And can I just quickly ask, what year was this, just so we get a sense?
This was 2015.
And
so nearly 10 years ago.
And so gut health wasn't really...
No one... No, very, very... it was obviously going on in the science world for a very long time, but in terms of consumers and in general public, people were like, what are you two talking about? You're sending your poo off in the post every day. Like, why? And thankfully, we obviously gained a lot from it in terms of, our new passion and purpose in life. But... I think obviously the science has evolved so much since then. But yes, that was 2015. As we started learning it, we just became so passionate about, why does no one know this? And people that we're talking about was in, the back of health food stores when they were paying £6 for a jar of sauerkraut. It was like, there's cabbage in a jar. And, all these sort of lofty conversations about the microbiome. And, we were like, well, why does not everyone know about this when it is so important to so many different aspects of health? And how can we start to democratise that information and make it accessible for everyone? So it started off as just a passion project. We were DJing on Love Island at the time, so and had various other jobs. But we were like, no, this is our new mission. So we started, the very, very first bit was just a YouTube series where we were really lucky that we got a lot of the top scientists of the world that would speak to us, because they were like, oh, like a pop culture version. It's not Radio 4 coming to speak to us. Like, why are these two DJs coming to speak to us? So, and that just, kept instilling, our mission. And, for us, where we're from in Scotland, health was just not being ill, and wellness was standing on your head drinking smoothies. And most people, that we grew up with in our family were like, that's not for me, that wellness thing. Our dad died of a heart attack in his 50s, and I do genuinely believe if he, knew some of the stuff that we do now, he'd still be here today. So there was lots of fires in the bellies of where where the mission and the brand that you sort of see now, it still is the same. Sorry, that wasn't in a nutshell.
No. This is great. I think what we want to paint here is not only your passion, but actually true expertise, because you've already, just talking about that's only scratching the surface, because this created the website, and then from there you started to build an audience essentially. And I'm guessing then that was the catalyst, because we had the pleasure of you being one of our early clients, helping you with the gut bars. So can you talk about how you'd got to that point where you'd built an audience, you had the expertise, and you saw an opportunity, and what was the reasoning where you think the next step is to launch a brand with a product, and how did that unfold?
Yeah, another random encounter. Lisa and I used to nanny by day when we DJ'd by night, and Lisa used to nanny the kids, who's now a brilliant friend of the head of design of a branding agency called JKR. He had heard us talking about all these conversations, going through the research, being like, oh my God, why does no one know about this? And I mean, just could not stop talking about gut health. He was like, I think there's something in this. I think, and we'd started to think, how can we actually make change, through building a brand and business. So we went into JKR. They built the brand, as you see it a bit. It was more pink at that point. So we had the brand before we had the business. We didn't know what we were going to do. We had a mission and a purpose, but we had no idea what we wanted to sell or bring out, or make it, what business model it was. And then the brand started winning all these big awards, D&ADs, where JKR wanted to win a D&AD yellow pencil for 25 years. And I'm like, does that get me any money, or is it just a pencil on my shelf? We won Clio's, we won One shows in New York, we won, in New York we won with Spotify and Nike, and Lisa and I are going, oh my God, what is this? Amazing. But I think that was good because the brand was quite eye-catching before we even knew what we wanted to go into. It was a blessing and a curse, though. We did everything backwards, and we still do everything backwards. But so that the website, then obviously now we find ourselves in some sort of SEO haven, having gut in the title, and actually the website is our biggest audience. We probably don't know that, but it has the most traffic over any of our social platforms. And we were just putting up the papers and getting all the scientists and clinicians together and saying, right, what do you all agree on? Getting them to write articles for the website. Then we did the YouTube series. And then, Gut Health, the ball really started to get rolling. And as we started to, and I have to caveat by saying, Lisa and I aren't experts in terms of, we haven't got degrees in, dietetics or nutrition, but we see ourselves as the activists, and we employ and get the best of the best in our...
I think that's your strength, to be honest, is what you've done so well across so many different platforms, is kind of whether it's demystifying things or sort of making it far more accessible and approachable for people. Because I think up until you came along, like you said, it was scientists, it was papers, it was quite dry, and it wasn't just the activism, but it was just that ability to be able to translate it for the general population.
And I think that's what helps us in a way. We would speak to everyone and would say, right, and then we'd distill it, and then be the sort of messengers in a way. And I think not being experts in ourselves in that thing has actually helped the business, because we are able to say, like, this is how everyone else understands it, and this is how we can communicate, and bring in our DJ pop culture element to that. I think we always say we aren't competing against other gut health brands in the space. We're competing against Ariana Grande and Nike for people's attention, or other big, huge brands. None of us should be competing against each other. We should all be working together to drive the same mission. Anyway, I digress. So then, product-wise, people were, once they heard about gut health, we started doing supper clubs, where we would get some of the experts in. And we'd get, the public in, and we would have a 3-course meal. It was actually a company called Dram and Smoke who used to do really deep fried Scottish food supper clubs that we'd go to with our pals, Iron Brew cocktails, all the rest of it. And I went up to the guys, founders, and was like, could you do this but healthy or gut friendly? They were like, yeah, we could give it a good bash. So we did quite a lot of them, actually. They were just very hard to scale, but Time Out named them one of the best things to do in London. I'm not sure they were, but it was in hindsight, it was amazing market research. Where was the baseline knowledge? What were the light bulb moments for people that got them on the gut health journey, that got them passionate? People are most malleable when they're sitting around the dinner table eating with friends. So then we were like, how do we scale this? We then ended up taking over Old Street Tube Station. Sadiq Khan had said he wanted brands with purpose in there, and at this point it was me and Lisa, and we were like, yeah, we can take over Tube Station. I mean, mad. We did it. We had everyone from big probiotics brands to small fermenters. Kellogg's came, and that was a real eye-opener for us to go, actually, you can start to see where this category could go. And we had probiotics, so pharma sitting next to kefir, and that's when we started to really see how could we be the hub for people to go to, and that was the sort of start of it. That took round the UK. By the time we got to Manchester, people were going, what the hell are you talking about? And at least in Old Street, people were like, oh yeah, the microbiome, I'm testing. By the time we got to Manchester and Glasgow, they were like, what are you on about? But it was brilliant for us because we were like, actually, we needed to get out that echo chamber and really see. And then in terms of going into product, I think, we got everyone together and said, what can you all agree on? And fibre was probably the resounding answer. We also knew, on hindsight, bringing out a sort of low margin, low cost product from a business model point of view, maybe not the right thing if you want to scale super quickly, but it was the right thing for consumers and making it mass market and affordable and accessible for everyone, which has always been our mission. We were never going to be a super expensive product because that didn't fit our mission. We obviously worked very hard with you guys as well to make them not only taste amazing, but make them so we didn't have any emulsifiers, preservatives in them, and efficacy was sort of top of that list. And it's amazing now when I go into my local Sainsbury's or Holland & Barrett, Boots, you name it, that seeing them on that shelf is, obviously the branding has changed. We tried to be too clever and we started with good vibrations, but now they're just the gut stuff bars. So it's quite surreal when you go in to see, obviously CPG very from a business point of view in these times, very difficult, especially with bars. You need to drive serious volume to get that revenue looking good, but
and it was just before COVID,
I know.
So the last 4 years, the last 4 years, for many reasons, has been arguably the most challenging time for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, we launched an on-the-go product in COVID, but we were lucky that we had that online audience. That DTC was a big player for us in Amazon initially, and then we were lucky. We were already speaking to the retailers on an education level, not just in. So when we brought out product, we already had those relationships too, and actually. For someone like Boots, gut health made sense because Imodium could sit next to our bars, and they could have a gut health category. Grocery still is more difficult because it's so disparate across category. From dairy and fridges to cereal to and how do you create that gut health base has been more of a challenge, I would say, in grocery. But in Superdrug, Boots, Holland & Barrett, having the gut health section certainly helped us from getting those listings fairly early on, really.
Do you think the grocery will go that way with everything that's happened, sort of compartmentalising it? Is that the way you think it's going to go, or do you still think they're quite rigid in their views of how categories should sit?
I think it will eventually. I think it's starting to go the way now, and we've seen it and been a part of it, of secondary space. So, pop-up gut health features where you will bring brands from different categories in. But I do think it will get here. I've been in it for 7 years. I think we're still working out who the gut health consumer is, and I think there are lots of different consumers. I think they are cohorts, if you will. So I think that proves a big issue for shopping in grocery. So, that's what we're trying to do. I'm sort of skipping steps, is, with the app, and we certainly saw when we started to widen out the audience of a TV show. 7 million people watch the TV show. People are coming to gut health for so many different things. I'd say when we first started the business, majority of people coming to us, at least sort of 80% were people with gut issues, which is, a lot of the population. But now far more coming from a well-being point of view, or, whether it's fertility, menopause, immunity, mental health. So as that audience widened, it gets far more difficult to sell products to them in the same way. And I don't mean to be crass when I say sell them products, because most often when people hear about gut health, they're like, I'm in, I'm passionate, what do I do now? what tools, services, products that I buy. Tell me what to take. So that is not me saying, you know, being commercial, like we have to sell them. That is people asking, you know, what do I need to do off the back of it? And that's why we went into product over services first, and then the services and now the tech came a bit later. And
I suppose there's a thing that really the end goal, you don't want to be in that sort of little free from or kind of at the back of the store section that people, you want to be in and amongst the big brands to really help it sort of become mainstream.
And that was always our mission, a more difficult one, but I wanted to be, you know, and that's why we decided on bars. I wanted to be front of store. I wanted people, even if they were just picking up our bars once a week over the other bar, like, you know, confectionery they had, and then, you know, increment. I'm not naive enough to think, I'm from working class Scotland, I'm not naive enough to think that people aren't going to have those bars anymore. That is not realistic to think that, you know. Barry in his top floor flat in Bolton still wants his X chocolate bar, you know, whatever. But if we can start to, you know, incrementally make small habits to change behaviours, and to see our type of bars next to that and be as accessible and as grab and go, then we start to make proper change, I think. Yeah.
And so you mentioned there that the one thing you could all agree on was that fibre was probably what you should prioritise. And I don't know if that is still, or if that is how the consumer would perceive it. I would imagine there are still a lot of people that probably think it's all about probiotics, and they maybe overvalue probiotics. Could you just tell us what your journey has been like in recent years and where it is now in terms of what consumer perceptions and expectations of gut health have been, and if that matches or jars against what you think the actual most important things are and what the science is showing?
Yeah, I think when we first started, people were like, what's my gut? I think people now, you know, when I get in a taxi and people ask what I do, as, you know, I own a gut health business, they're like, more often than not now they have heard of it, whereas before they were like, all right, and then it was silence. So I think the gut health messaging is out there. I think people, I think they know about fibre. I don't think they, you know, for us, I was like, oh, what do you mean all bran? You know, what do you mean cereal? I think there's still a confusion around what fibre actually is and where you can get it. I don't think many people know that about, you know, it being prebiotic. Where I do think people that are of a certain audience know about probiotics, I still don't think they know what probiotics are. So I spoke at a big conference in Milan last week about a big probiotics conference, so for your 500 delegates, all the big pharma companies in Europe. And I did a poll on our Instagram. So obviously 130,000 people, but it's still a small section of general population. But you'd think people that are following us would know about gut health, potentially have known about probiotics. Like, resounding didn't know what probiotics were, still confused, what brand I choose, so actually that's people that are passionate about gut health and still don't know what probiotics are. And we had this, you know, when we were first MPD in the bars, like, do we put a probiotic in there? And actually I didn't think that consumers were ready for it. And, you know, probiotics, if you're generally healthy and well, you know, there's science isn't there yet to say that you should definitely have a probiotic. You know, for, you know, specific strains do different things without sort of going in. So yeah, I was always banging that fibre drum. And, you know, when you start, on our app we've got a fibre tracker, and, you know, even I practicing what I preach, it's so difficult to get those 30 grams. And how do we get that up? And, you know, we aren't saying with our bars have 3 bars a day. You know, we're saying, you know, use that as a top up while having it, you know, keep your skins on veggies, swap brown pasta for white, you know, all those little incremental changes, and put a bar on top. So the messaging around the bar was fitted with the message that we wanted to get across.
And it's that variety that you've just listed there, and I think that's what we're pleased to see is becoming. I mean, it's still not that well known, but whenever people come to us looking for development in gut health, I've been saying for years now that gut health is still the trend to back, even though it's a growing trend. I'm like, it's going to keep growing.
Yeah, and it's not going to go away.
No,
but you came into it really quite early because of
my own personal reasons. I was sort of on that journey, and just seeing the science that it very recently is only just starting to show how it impacts so many aspects of your health, because for decades we didn't have the studies that are now coming out. And I think now that we've got that awareness because of the great work that people like you are doing, and we've got these studies coming out, I think it's just the power of the internet and all of that is going to keep growing. what was the point I was making about this? Yes, the thing that we say to people, because they say, oh, you know, we need to get as many billions of probiotics in there, and whether it's probiotics or prebiotics, it actually seems to be the variety and having a broad variety of both of them that is the most beneficial. And I think not many people are aware of that, but it is starting to grow, and the science is proving that. What are your views on that in terms of what you think about variety versus billions of probiotics and what the future holds?
Yeah, I think variety is key, and I think, you know, being a bit more experimental, you know, I think we all went through a phase 10 years ago where it was like meal prep, protein, you know, and in that hype, you know, of eating the same thing every day or, you know, hammering the protein, we lost our love of fibre. You know, I think that had a big part to play with it, but also, you know, that variety of different foods, and we're all creatures of habit. Behaviour is the hardest thing to change, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that getting your head around adding stuff in and being more experimental is really, really difficult. And gut health, I think, you know, there's many, many barriers and misconceptions when it comes to gut health. But I think one of them is people think they have to restrict everything within an inch of its life. And actually getting your head around, no, it's about adding stuff in, more fibre. It's a very difficult behavioural change to make when for all of us, for so many years, to be healthy, we've all thought about restriction because it's something we did 2 weeks before we went on holiday. And it was all about, you know, what was on the outside rather than what's on the inside. And that behaviour change, what we've seen is the most difficult to...
I mean, we found, both myself and my wife, we did the Zoe app and diet and all that sort of stuff. She's still doing it. I can't be bothered to log it all the time, but it's made some significant changes. But one of the things that we both found was the whole fibre, getting that 30 grams in a day. Now, I cook all my own food, so, and, you know, probably a bit too much meat, but healthily pretty much, and lots of veg, eat fruit. But we just realised, getting that, we were maybe on sort of 15, 20 grams of fibre. And so, you know, nuts, seeds, all these things, exactly what you're saying, adding stuff to, and it doesn't make it sort of worthy. It can really, if you toast the nuts or the seeds or whatever, you can just add flavour and texture and all these things that make food exciting. So, but it is that one thing that we completely found. I haven't got my fat. I've got 28 grams. I haven't quite got my 30. Every day you're like that. What can I put on? But it does change your habit as well, I find.
Yeah, and that is all about small habits over a long period of time. And I think that is also really hard behaviourally to get our heads around because, you know, we're not, and this is what we say, you know, we do a big side of the business now is our services side. So we do corporate wellness for Visa, Accenture, you know, all sort of PayPal, all the big ones. And, you know, most of the time before, now it's a bit different, but we'd go in and, you know, the guys at the back, like, you're not going to change me, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously you educate them and think, and actually what we're saying isn't that you've got to completely 360 your life, become a different person and, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow it. What we're saying is, you know, is those simple swaps that happen over a long period of time. And that's what we've tried to do with the app is, you know, that behavioural science of, you know, this incremental change long term. And we did like a fibre challenge with the bars and the app. And it was brilliant. And Simon's just joined us as our new out of home person, and you know he'll admit to it. He's just sort of, you know, similar age to me, young dad, was just like, oh, you know, blah. He's like a changed person. He's like he's like, honestly, I feel so different.
Yeah.
Just getting more fibre. Yeah. He's fermenting his own kimchi. He's like, and I'm like, but that's the beauty of, like, I think where Gut Health is going now and where our brand has resonated with people, and that, you know, Lisa and I aren't angels. I still like a bottle of red, you know, of a night, or, you know, and I think that's what's resonated, is that we haven't been preachy with it. It's like, here's the facts from the best experts in the business. You know, our book was a really good example of that, of, you know, we managed to get 16 of the top experts in gut health to write each chapter, and, you know, the people that we got in there, look back at now, how did we do it, you know, and then given our sort of like commentary throughout it in a sort of, you know, fun, jovial, bite-sized way, I think it doesn't make people go, oh, no, that's not for me. It's like, no, actually, we're inclusive, and we're not telling you that you can't have fun, because that's not what we do. And I think that message, and with the TV show as well, you know, we knew when Lisa and I came up with the idea, we knew we didn't want, you know, and this may come, but, you know, a really hard-hitting, controversial documentary. We wanted it to be fun and entertaining and reality, because we were like, then we'll hit an audience of people that wouldn't come across gut health, you know, organically. And you know, when we first started pitching it, people were like, it will never be mainstream. You will never get a TV show about gut health, mainstream TV. And we were like, okay. And we did, you know, we got the Bake Off slot on Channel 4 and, you know, primetime slot, and so many people tuned in. And the thing that really surprised us most was how many people tuned in live. So that first episode, I think 1.5 million people tuned in live to a health format. You know, when does that happen? We beat Love Island, which was actually a good sort of turn of career events. You know, we made the right choice. But that was amazing. And actually, the thing that mattered most to us was that people stayed for the whole hour. So once they were in, they were engaged.
Right.
And that happens when we go and do talks. So we obviously do our corporate wellness. You know, sometimes it's Lisa and I go with our clinicians, or it's just our nutritionists and dietitians. But we also see it when we go into schools and universities. You know, we've been piloting to be on the school curriculum, and you just see people so engaged, and that's what keeps going. You know, running a startup is extremely stressful, and you know, as you'll know, it's, you know, sometimes you think, God, but it's that purpose and mission, and education will always stay at the heart of everything that we do, and that's what keeps us going. When you see the light bulb moments, and you know, making proper change, I think is And
going back to what you said, I think one of the dangers is you don't want people to think that they have to get 30 grams a day to make a difference, because a lot of people will only be getting 5 to 10
that's
grams.
It. And that's what we did within the app as well, is actually we just do 5 gram incremental. So
and you feel the difference.
Yeah.
If I haven't been taking it for a while, then I just do even my teaspoon powder of inulin maybe once or twice a day, sort of spread across. Within a few days, I can feel and see, and you know, all the other sort of checks to know that and see that it is actually making a difference.
And we don't want people to go from 0 to hero, right? Like that's not sustainable. It's like, no, actually, and with fibre, we all actually should be very slow and steady and hydrate yourself and all the rest of it. So and that's how we've designed the app as well. It's actually like these little challenges, and we're not saying, you know, you've got to track everything all day, every day. We've actually done it into challenges. So you can track 1 week. We do a speed date your gut for the first week. Like, actually, we can see, you know, where you're maybe falling short on fibre or water, or, you know, whatever it may be, exercise, because it all comes into gut health, stress. You know, it's not just about food. And I think that can feel overwhelming, but I think that's the beauty of it. You know, even if you've got a week where, you know, it's hellish at work, it's like, actually, I know I can get more movement. And I hate the word exercise because that makes me think of hammering at a HIIT class. Actually, movement. So, you know, do I get off a tube stop earlier or the bus stop earlier and walk that bit more? When I go down for my coffee when I'm working from home, do I take the steps twice? And I think that's what's resonated on the corporate wellness side as well, is that that's the sort of tips we give. It's not, you know, you've got to exercise for 60 minutes every day and only have this and only eat that. It's actually what simple stuff. 1 call a day, could you do it walking? And does someone have to see your face on that Zoom? If not, go and do their movement and a walk. And it's reframing, I think, and thinking of the way that we think about being healthy. And gut health, the beauty of it is that it affects, you know, whatever your health goal, you know, you should probably start looking at your gut. But that's a hard message, because I think a lot of people still do, when you say gut health, they think, you know, a gut issue, and they think, oh, that's not for me. And, you know, our big message in this year is like, no, everyone should be starting to think about their gut health. And
I was only talking yesterday on the train on the way back from a factory, food factory, to one of my colleagues who he's like, I'm on a diet at the moment, so I'm trying to lose weight. He's sort of a youngish guy. But I'm saying, you're not getting your fibre, mate.
I was
saying,
feeling
what about fruits,
whatever?
And the one thing I had on me, which is my sort of thing to get a bit more fibre, I've always got nuts on me.
Yeah.
And so, and it doesn't have to be like unsalted, unroasted. You can have that. Obviously, you know, you don't have too much salt. But I just had some KP salted peanuts. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And a few handfuls of those, loads of fibre.
And that's like, you know, I always say, and that's the thing, people are like, oh God, those like organic mixed nuts bags from Marks & Spencer are so expensive. And they are. But it's like, actually, what I did at Christmas, you know how big bags of nuts at your sort of more mainstream grocers, you get these big bags of them for Christmas. I just stocked up on them all, put them all in mixed jars, and you're like, actually, you can do it affordably and accessibly, and I just have that, nibble them at my desk like a little mouse.
Bringing it back to starting a CPG brand, like you say, challenging for anybody. Helps if you have a co-founder.
Yes.
Micah and I, by this point, are almost like half brothers. But you had an actual sister, a twin sister.
Yeah.
How was the journey, and obviously, I'm guessing it was a great support.
Yeah.
Having Lisa.
I don't know how founders do it on their own. Like, hats off. I have a few friends that are founders on their own. I really, really don't know how they do it. I think Lisa and I have very different skill sets. She's very creative. And as the business has grown, we are more and more siloed into different roles.
Which is interesting, given that you're twins.
Yeah, so we are actually mirror twins. So we use opposite sides of the brain. So I'm right-handed, she's left-handed. I'm more maths, she's more English. I do all the boring stuff, really. I say all the admin and finance and ops sort of thing. And she's, very creative. All the puns you see are her. But I think we learned those differences and ways of working while we were DJing. We worked together for 9 years, and we never wanted to work together. I was meant to do law and business at uni, and she was meant to do medicine, and we were the first people in our families to get into uni. It was like, oh, it's all right, the twins will be all right, they're thingy. And then I went to dance school, and Lisa went to drama school. Like, you can imagine our parents' faces. Our obituaries now will make sense because we went into a business around health, but we didn't get the degrees in it. I think having the entertainment career, found out what our strengths and weaknesses are, and then that was transferable to. And I think the main thing is, celebrating the highs, but it's getting each other through the lows. Yeah. And actually not quitting because you can't do that to the other person. I think that's what keeps a lot of startups going and co-founders, is that if I'm not going to be selfish and break when it's for both of us. And I think with family, it's like that ride or die. You can't, you just wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid rock.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, because it keeps on coming up, is that the DJ bit, because that you found out about each other's strengths and weaknesses, but also that was you're presenting to people. That's exactly what you're doing, is you were getting some tunes and sort of presenting those. Now you're getting experts' opinions, sort of selecting them and then presenting them. And it's just something that is so relevant. And what I saw in what I did before in the wine industry and then going to food and learning about taste, it's all relevant, all these experiences you have earlier on.
At the time, I think like when when we mentor young women now, and I'm like, if you told me when I was at school what my journey would be, I'd have been like, what? I thought you do business, like what you talk about. But now I think it does, and I think you're so right, like those transferable skills of, our sort of biggest asset has been communication, and that came from, we were presenters as well, we did a lot of radio, and so like how do we communicate that? Exactly. And actually, so we've had so many jobs. Like, I used to manage a yoga studio, I worked in a call centre, and actually, all the advice that we give to students now, at one point we had 4 jobs and we were on Love Island, but that's living in London and TV wages. But we always say, you never know what those skills are learning. 100%, managing the yoga studio helped me on the sort of management of, the account side and actually communication and, all that sort of thing. And you think, that's why just do your best at every job you do. Like when I was working in H&M, those skills that you learn will inevitably help you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to gut health, I'd be keen to understand what you think the future holds. A lot of people will talk about tailored probiotics eventually being on the horizon. Feels like it's actually quite a way away. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on things like that? And do you have any other sort of insights or ideas that maybe people don't talk about in terms of where you think it will go?
Yeah, I think there's, when we've seen it even in the past year, there's so many more people piling into the space. I think that's only a good thing. Like if everyone's heart is really in changing the health of the nation, then that is only a good thing. I think it's still really uncertain. I think as much as, we're all in the bubble, I do think there's still a lot of misconceptions around gut health. The science, even though we've come a long way, still got a long way to go. I get really excited when and this is so grassroots, this isn't even macro level, when I take a Simon, our out of home person, just saying how much better he feels in his day from those incremental changes. And we still, even from the TV show, have people being like, thank you so much, you've literally changed my life. And I hope that that's what the future holds, rather than talking about, trends or, I really do hope that you know, we can start to make a proper difference within our healthcare system as well. And Lisa and I are on the NHS Food Review Board, and how can we start to make proper change?
So rather than it being about some big breakthrough that's not like product that's not been done before, you think it's still largely around just awareness and adoption and proper understanding?
I think we've got a long way to go. With that, and I think I would love to say it isn't that, but I think, you know, even we've seen it, you know, launching the app, we still have a lot of like, well, I don't really need it because you know, I don't have an issue, or you know, and I think. Yeah, I think we've still got a long way to go. Yeah.
And do you ever hear anything about tailored probiotics? It comes up to us a few times, this idea that you send, you know, a sample of your poo off to be in analysed, and it will tell you you're deficient in these particular varieties, and therefore they then create a sort of bespoke blend for you. Do you think that's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, there's talk of it just going down your toilet, basically. Like you take the sample from your toilet, like toilets that will basically analyse your stool and then get sent away. So yeah, I think it will definitely come, and it's exciting. Like the science is exciting, and I think when you start to get, you know, when it starts to go into the commercial zone and more money's getting put into the science, that can only be a good thing, right?
Yeah, I realised I should have said stool instead of poo. I've said it twice now.
No, I mean, you're talking to me. I would have said shit, so...
Alana started anyway. She said poo to start with.
Yeah,
true,
exactly.
True. Okay, well, look... we'll have a few quick-fire questions that we'd like to ask all of our guests, and then I do want to finish on your amazing app and just a bit of a... You can run us through that, because it is incredible, everything that's going on there. But quick-fire questions. Is there another brand out there that inspires you from a brand perspective? Doesn't have to be food or drink. It could be fashion, travel, entertainment, anything at all.
I think I look a lot to Flow for us and what they're doing in the women's health space.
Yeah.
And, you know, mission-driven, any mission-driven brands, you know, I just think I have such admiration for. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Flow. I mean, I am a Peloton maddo. I've never been a fan of anything since Justin Timberlake in 2000, whatever. And, yeah, I am a big Peloton fan. I love what they do. And it's changed me in my life. And I guess what I admire about them from a business point of view is that sense of community. Yeah. And I think we all struggle a bit now as a global world with connection and community. And I think... you know, any brand that's bringing Flow does it as well, extremely well with community. Yeah. So that's probably what attracts me to them as well.
The thing with Peloton is, even if you're purpose driven and you've got good intentions, you can't do it in a worthy way. You've got to make it cool. You've got to make it aspirational and desirable to get people to adopt it. And I think that's what you do so well as well. Is there a piece of advice that you've had in your career that always you kind of remember the most, or is there a piece of advice that you would say to our listeners that, you know, if they're looking to start a brand or a business?
Yeah, I guess it's like just like it will be a roller coaster, and remembering that. I think, you know, we all see when we think of having a business or you know, a new career, we only think of the good times. But I think acknowledging that there will be bad times, and you know, this too shall pass is something that is a mantra that I'm sure, you know, most founders go through. But and that, you know, no matter how good your idea and how good your business, there will be bad points, and there will be downsides, and there will be turns and pivots and twists in the road. And actually, it's about, you know, what makes you is getting through those times, not the glory of the good times.
Desert island dish. And you can have two if you want. If you want to do one that's very gut health focused and one that's maybe a cheat meal.
I just love a Sunday roast. Mainly because it's the connection and we have around it. We always say, you know, on a Sunday, and it's our sort of like, my husband's in the West End just now, so he only gets a Sunday off. So like our Sundays are quite sacred in that sense of family time. So I think, yeah, rather than the taste, because I love all food. I'm a Henrietta Hecker. So I think more around like the ritual and family time of a roast is probably why I choose that.
Any particular meat you go for?
Lamb.
Interesting.
Normally. Yes. Yeah. We have our local farm. We're very lucky to live out in the countryside. They do an amazing tomahawk.
Oh, yeah, lovely. Yeah.
So often we treat ourselves to that. Nice. But yeah, I love a lamb roast, some mint sauce.
Nice.
Crispy potatoes. With skins on.
Is there a book or a podcast maybe focusing on gut health that you would champion and want to shout out in terms of, other than all of the great content that you have, is there another sort of resource from somebody else that you just think is a great piece of resource around gut health? We've mentioned the diet myth on this podcast
endlessly.
a number of times.
Yes.
And lots of things to do with Tim Spector, who is obviously far more famous now in recent years.
Podcast on gut health.
Or a book.
Well, it might not be
or a website or a magazine. It doesn't have to be gut health, but we just always ask for a resource that we can sort of point our listener in the direction of.
I'm just trying to think. I mean, Julia Ender's Gut, if you're looking for a book audio, that is the OG.
I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the OG in gut books. So, yeah, I'd probably say hers.
Brilliant.
Started the revolution.
Excellent. And so let's finish with just a bit more information about the app so people can go and check it out, because I hadn't seen it and you were taking us through it.
Yeah.
And it literally does anything and everything that you can think of to sort of track and educate and analyse and so on. So maybe just give us a bit of a spiel as to what's going on with the app.
Yeah, I think the main thing that we had when we'd go and do a talk somewhere, whether it be, school or corporate or at a dinner table, people were like, all right, okay, where do I start? And I'm like, well, you could go on our website, or you could get our bar and boots, or you could, read this book or look at that podcast. And it was never a clear journey of where to go. And, actually it's like, download this app, we'll take you through the journey of learning about the gut, and then a wet breadth of knowledge and quizzes off the back of that. And then seeing where your baseline is, and people see, what's my gut health like now? And actually you can learn a lot just by tuning in. And I think rarely a lot of us do tune in. So tracking how much fibre you're having, looking at your stool, so we've got little poos to pick and peas, hydration, looking at your 360 lifestyle. And actually for me, when we start beating the app, I was like, God, I actually do not drink anywhere near enough water. Yeah. I'm not, I think I've got a variety in my diet, but I actually don't. I'm trying to feed the toddler and all the rest of it. And, I am moving a lot, but is it, and my stress is obviously through the roof on a startup. So actually just tuning in. So the first week of being on the app is about learning and speed dating your gut. And we've got lots on there in terms of a marketplace of our products, but other products that we recommend. So food and pharma. We have a community, which is obviously, always at the heart of everything we do, but now it's in one place, whereas before it was on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, but actually having it in one place has been lovely. You have challenges to make it fun. So we have fibre challenges, fermenting challenges, get out in nature challenges, and you can do that with yourself, or you can get groups of friends to do it. If you're in businesses, you can get leaderboards and all that sort of thing. What else do we have? The shop, obviously, the marketplace. And actually the thing that I love most about it is we offer sort of discounted one-to-ones with our friend Sophie's Clinic, who was the expert on Know Your Shit on the TV show. And that was a big thing that came out of the TV show was, I need to see, and I need to see if I've got an issue, I need to see an expert. And she's, I think the best in the biz. So that partnership, we were really lucky to have. It's quite a heavy discount,
I think. It's not just like 10% off.
Yeah, no, £65.
Instead of what were you saying? A lot of people would be like,
yeah. But what we're taking out of it is that half an hour of learning about that person. So you use the app to track everything. You download the PDF, it goes straight to the dietitian, and you're cutting out so much time. So you can also do that for a GP as well, or your NHS clinician. So that's also cutting time on an appointment where, when you go and they're like, can you write a food diary for the next 6 weeks? You can say, actually, I've done it. Yeah. And then you've saved an 8-minute appointment for the NHS. So that's something we're really proud of. But the thing that I'm most excited about is we've gamified it. Yeah. So for everything that you do, learning, quizzes, tracking, challenges, community, you earn gut points that you can redeem against product, or amazingly, you can get, if you get enough, you can get a free one-to-one with an expert, and that just democratizes the whole thing, which is our mission. And so I think what the app does for us is it really brings everything that we stand for and all the other bits of the business into one place, one tidy, and it's only $5.99 a month.
Yeah,
and it's called?
They got stuff.
Yeah.
So if you just type that into App Store, and we're on Android, which I think is rare for our first launch. Normally people just do Apple first.
I love that gamifying element, because even if the points didn't do anything, people would just look.
Oh, I mean, you should see it in our office already. It's like, how many on? Everything. And I think that's how we start to engage the next generation as well, is making it fun, and that's what it's all about.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Alana. So inspiring. So exciting to hear all the plans that you've got. It's going to be interesting to see where you get to with the brand, what you do next, where we get to with gut health. If your mate at work starts eating salted nuts.
Yeah.
How Simon gets on with his.
That's
his
Tom, by the
kick.
way. So
Right,
just
Tom.
shout him out for.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks very much. And hopefully we'll get to do it again in the future and see what else has evolved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And for more information, please visit tastehead.com. We hope you join us for our next episode.